Alright. Chris, dat lukt? Ja. Alright. Ready, Jens? Okay. Good to be back. It's been a while since I gave a talk. So I thought, what have I been doing since the last talk? And yeah, it's been 1.5 years already, or 1 year, I think. And yeah, so basically for the people who don't know me, because yeah, half of you are new to the Flutter Meetup. So my name is Koen Van Looveren. I'm a freelance developer since one and 3 months now already. I focus mainly on Flutter projects. I organize the Flutter Belgium Meetups like these as well, and I'm a Webflow and Serverpod enthusiast. What does that mean? I do Webflow project as well for clients, and in my spare time I do some Serverpod projects for my own use. So maybe my next talk will be about that. So join me there. So yeah, what I've been doing since my last talk is basically improving my workflow for my freelance projects. And improving your workflow for me personally is automation. And yeah, trying to find a way to improve certain parts of your daily tasks and making sure that everything you're doing is streamlined and all your projects are kept in the same way to publish to the store and all kinds of tasks that you do on a daily basis. So what we'll be talking about today, so basically what is a CLI, why do you need a custom one, and why you should write it in Dart. And then I will give 2 demos. I've prepared them yesterday. Basically I started yesterday on my talk. So let's see how it goes. And then, yeah, of course, when should you not use a custom CLI, or are there reasons not to use one? So what is a CLI? I think everyone here already knows what a CLI is. It's a command line interface, and it can be interactive. For example, Flutter and Dart are both CLIs. I think everyone has done the following command to debug your Flutter environment or your dev environment. Flutter doctor-v, and it will print out what happened or what is installed on your local machine. So basically that is a CLI. It just runs in your terminal, and you can execute commands without a user interface. So why do you need a custom CLI? I think it's basically to simplify tasks. You don't want to remember 10 API calls that you need to do to pull down all your translations, for example. You just want a simple command that does everything for you. And as Romain already said previously, he can now build from a CLI a project in 20 minutes, which is simplifying tasks and making your life a lot easier. So why would you use this indeed, simplifying tasks? And I would say, if you're a Flutter developer, also write your CLI in Dart. It's less context switching, so you're staying with the same programming language. I've seen projects where we're doing a Flutter project, but all the scripts are written in Bash, all the scripts are written in JavaScript, and you're constantly switching between programming languages, which is not really beneficial for your productivity. So you would say, okay, a custom CLI for mobile development, but we already have Fastlane. So Fastlane is already basically a CLI that you can use, you can call. So why do we need a custom CLI? And I would say that Fastlane is not Fastlane, but Fastpain. And I will explain you why. I think everyone who laughed will know what I mean. So The main reason for me is that it uses Ruby in the first place. It's another programming language that you don't use at all when doing Flutter. You need to make sure that you install it correctly through gem or brew, especially if you also use Cocoa Pods. If you install Cocoa Pods with brew and Fastlane with gem, then they don't know both of them exist. So it's quite hard to figure out where the issues are. Actually, every time I install or I bought a new PC or I did a clean install of my PC and I needed to install Fastlane to build my projects, I always had the same issue where Cocoa Pods could not be found, and it was always something that I had to search a couple hours for, and then your day is ruined, of course, because you want to do productive stuff. So mainly development environment issues is something real when you're using Fastlane. Of course, Fastlane comes with a lot of benefits. You can easily push to the store with, I think, 3 lines of code. You can easily build your project with 2 lines of code. Check if you're on a CI with 1 line of code. So Fastlane has advantages to go to market fast. The question is, do you want to have problems in the long run with dependency issues, with dev environment issues, or other issues along the line? So, because I've used Fastlane, I think for 6 years in the company I worked for previously, I said I don't want to do this for my clients, and I don't want to be having these issues when I need to work for other features or projects. I started with a custom CLI written in Dart, and the question is indeed, why should you write it in Dart? I said it before, you only want one programming language if you're using Flutter. You can just write it in Dart. There's no context switching, and a really big one is that you can compile it ahead of time. That means that you can just get an executable that you can save in your on your PC anywhere, and you can just run it without the Dart engine or without the Dart installation. So you can just run the scripts, or in fact that's a program at that point that is compiled and runs on itself without any dependencies anymore. So everything is already compiled in that one single package. If you run that specific program, you could also give it to a project manager who can update translations, for example, for a project, which is easy without having to install the whole Dart SDK, because indeed it runs everywhere. And because you're using Dart, you don't have dependency issues because you're already using it on your day-to-day projects and your day-to-day feature that you need to implement. So the question is now, how do you need to write one? I've listed 3 packages I would really recommend. The first and maybe the biggest one is args. So args is basically a package that parses all your arguments for you and says, okay, this is the command that should be run, or that you should run now. It also provides you with a help function. Out of the box, a lot of documentation can be added quite easily, and I will show you how you need to do it as well. Then CLI spin is one that I use for showing that the CLI is doing something. You don't want a line that does nothing, and you're not sure if something is happening, if something fails, or if just something hangs. So, or your thread is hanging, for example. So the CLI spin is basically a loading indicator for your CLI, which makes it quite easy to say, okay, this command or this line failed, and it will just replace the loading indicator with a failed state or with a success state, for example. The only issue with that is that it hasn't been updated since 11 months. I don't think it's a really big issue because it's a quite small package. You can just easily forget and fix issues along the line. but I think right now it's not yet updated to support the latest Flutter version. So for me, I've currently forked it to support that. And then the last one that I would also recommend is the CLI completion, which just completes your CLI commands and say, okay, this is what you could type, so you don't need the help function. Other ones are, for example, the code builder, which makes it easy to generate a code directly from your CLI, where you can just say, okay, I want a class with a body, with a constructor. The constructor also should have a body. I want 3 methods, all with parameters, bodies, return types, which makes it quite easy to generate files in your CLI when you're, for example, creating or doing something similar, like Mason, for example, or generating Dart files for your translations, which is something I'm doing as well. So Code Builder is also one that I would recommend. So, okay, let's see how that actually works in reality. I've prepared 2 demos. One to show how you should actually start with building a CLI. So you could. So for example, if we look at the Flutter create command, you can always ask for help, because I forgot what it actually was. So you can start, for example, a project that is a package, a module, an app, but you can also, this is Flutter, so Dart create template console, and this will generate a basic console application for you, and that would look basically like this. So you will get, of course, a pub spec, analysis options, and then a lib folder and a bin folder. And the bin folder will basically just call the file that is located here. I have already implemented some stuff to show how you can use the args package, for example. So why do you want to have a bin folder and a lib folder? When you're running your Dart package with Dart run, it will always run the bin folder for you with the same name of your package. And then it will look for the main file, and then of course it will run the code that you've written. So why do I still use the lib folder then and not just write everything in my bin folder? Is basically because sometimes I want to create scripts that use certain parts of my CLI that I then can expose with my lib folder. As long as the code is in the lib folder, it can be exported. Is this readable even? Is this better? Yes. So let's see. So what I've currently done is the bin folder is just the main function that gets arguments, and then I create a class that is my CLI that needs to run with certain arguments. And I don't want to do parsing here because for me this is just running the application. All the business logic should be in the lib and then exposed properly, like Frey already showed with the sub-packages or something else, or separate packages. So indeed, what have I done in my lib folder? I expose what I want to expose to the outside world. And as you can see here, I also expose the code builder. So this makes sure that I always have a code builder dependency in other projects. So for example, if I run a script or want to create a script somewhere and I need code builder only for that certain script, if I also have the CLI in my dev dependencies, it will also have the code builder dependency already. So that makes it easier, and if you're not using other dependencies, it's quite easy to use. But of course, it's not needed. I feel like in my case, I don't use code builder anywhere other than scripts. So for me, I just expose that by default Then if you look at the CLI, what I've done, so this is basically the function that is executed from inside the bin folder. So the command runner is a class that is exported out of the args package. And here you're just saying, okay, what is my CLI about? So my CLI is called FB CLI, so Flutter Belgium CLI. And I gave it a description that the CLI just replaces Fastlane to simplify CI/CD processes. And I added just one Play Store command to upload APKs to the Play Store in a very easy and simple way. Of course, if you want to use this certain command, you need to add it to your command runner, because your command runner will parse all the arguments and will tell you, okay, this argument was passed, so this command should run with these arguments. Okay, so I add all my commands. If I have other commands, I just add them here. They're all just added to the runner. And then you say, okay, runner, just run with these arguments. And if you pass the right arguments, you will end up in the Play Store command here. So what you can see here is basically you extend a command, which is again a class that is exported from the args package. In the constructor of your command, you just say, okay, these are all my options. If the command needs to be parsed, this is what is required, or these are the options that are available. And this will also be used to show the help method, or the help, what's it called, the help menu, for example. So for this command, I just say, okay, I need a path where my APK file is. Do I want to generate a changelog, yes or no? And is my APK an actual APK, or is it an AAB file? Then you also need to specify what is your command name. So in this case, I just chose Play Store. So in this case, we will have FB_CLI Play Store, and then the options that are passed here. And then again, the description that we have just for the help function. And then if all the arguments are parsed correctly, we will get in this function, and we can start fetching the arguments results and check if the path was there, if the changelog was there. And then I call a certain plugin. Now, the plugin specifically is not something you need to do or require to do, but I will show you later why I set it up like this. For now, let's just say that we're calling publish to publish the actual file. And you can see here that I'm starting a spinner to validate the SDK, and for now, I will move that here. So for now, I just added a delay of 1 second just to show that the spinner is actually doing something. And then a simple flag that can be turned on or turned off, also just quite easy. All of these are added to a logger, and this one is using the CLI spin. So basically what I'm doing is when I start a spinner, I just create a new spinner, and I just, okay, start, then the spinner starts. As long as you're not stopping it, warning it, or failing it, it will just continue. Otherwise, it will just show the failed state, the warned state, or just stop. So quite an easy logger. And now let's see how this actually works. So if I just run my Dart CLI like this, it will just run the, oh, this is wrong. Custom, yes, Dart run bin like this. Then it will fail because I didn't provide a specific command, and it will also show me out of the box what I could run in this case. So the available commands in this case are Play Store, which I showed you, is coming from the Play Store command, is this name. So okay, let's see. I forgot what I set up. So let's see what the options are. So I just enter Play Store -help, and then it will just show you, okay, these are the options. So the path is mandatory. It's the path to the APK file. And then this is a flag, yes or no. And then you also need to specify a type. So okay, let's see. I need to pass a path. Of course, this path doesn't exist, but just to show that, that something is coming in. Then you see the spinner. And just for demo purposes, I added a warning with a message, then a success for the changelog, and then the upload failed. Also just by showing that the spin is actually failing. So you can just add the flag that I also specified, and then it's just no changelog or changelog, depending on if you want the changelog on or off. And then it will not show the changelog. So quite easy, but I feel like a lot of tasks can be simplified just by creating simple tasks, simple commands that can be chained with each other. And this is quite an easy example. I think, Romain, your CLI will look a lot more complex, I guess. But indeed, for my own purposes, I've created my own CLI. And mine mainly focuses on CI/CD stuff and deploying to the Play Store and the App Store, test flight, etc. So I will show you a demo on how I handle that. So basically, I've created an impactful CLI, which is my company, and I did some fixes yesterday, so that's why there's one. So for me personally, I use scripts and the CLI basically side by side. So I want to make sure that all the projects that I do are always in the same structure. So that's why in each project you would see build APK or build alpha APK or build prod APK, for example. And in the end, it's basically the same or set up the same as I showed for the simple example. Only the one that I've done is a little more complex, a little more setup is required. So what I do is basically say, okay, I want to run my CLI, but I want to access a certain plugin and I want to run this, this, and this. So I don't need to remember all the options that I need to give in the actual CLI. So when I go to a project and I do a small bug fix, I don't want to remember, okay, what were the actual commands that I need to run here. So for me, this works quite well. I just say, okay, I want to run or build my APK. And the first step that needs to happen is do a version bump, and the suffix should be Android. I can also say, okay, it should be Android Alpha, for example. And I want to commit the changes yes or no, or I could even add a flavor here that would be prod or alpha or something else. If that is done, I just receive the build number. So the build number can be used to build the Android APK. And if you look at this, this would, in the end, Flutter. This is the CI/CD plugin, yes. So CI/CD, integrations, Flutter build, plugins, Flutter build. So in the end, this will, for me, run FVM build, a Flutter build, and then Android or iOS, release, the specific flavor, specific main Dart file, obfuscate, yes or no. So basically all the commands that Flutter already provided, I've added to a custom Flutter build plugin so that I can just use it in my own scripts. And it's quite easy for me to update. If Flutter comes out with a new function, I just add it in my general CLI that I use in all my projects. And it can be just an update, a version bump, and everything is available everywhere. In the past, I've used scripts where I do a lot of stuff. Now I just move everything to the CLI directly, so it is available for all the projects that I do. So for me, it's just build Android, don't obfuscate with this build number, and build an APK, and that's it. So let's see if that works. Dart, run, tools, build APK. So you can see, okay, it's first started initializing the CLI, then doing the version bump, then the actual version bump. And if you look, it updated the release config file where I keep the version number that is used. You could also just fetch it from an environment variable from CodeMagic, for example, and that would simplify this step by just fetching your environment variable. In my case, I want to be able to build locally and on the CI. So for me, this works better. But after that, it just runs the Flutter build command without the flavor, so that's why it's null. And then it just successfully builds. So if you look at the build, it is located here, and that is the APK that is released. And I think, let's see, no, not here. So for other projects, let me see. So for other projects, for example, a little bit bigger, I do it like this. I have a config file where I get the one-time passwords IDs. So I don't want to share all my logic or all my credentials. So I want to make sure that all my credentials are safe in 1Password. So I wrote a plugin that just gets my my IDs out of 1Password directly from the CLI. And then I'm able to just download them here. So if you look at the alpha APK, for example, I do a version bump, and then I will upload to App Center after everything is done, and it will build to this name, and then will build with this owner name. It will notify listeners and to this distribution groups. So for me, this was initially quite fun side project because I was just playing around with how can I improve some certain tasks, and eventually I just moved everything that I had in Fastlane to a custom CLI. But of course, let's go back to the slides. Of course, there are disadvantages as well to a custom CLI. If you're not ready to do maintenance on these specific custom CLI, I don't think it's for you. It's a little bit maintenance, but it's actually quite alright if you set it up properly in the beginning. If you don't need any custom implementation, you can also just use Fastlane if that's working perfectly for you, or just basic commands that are already baked in Flutter. And if you don't like a fun side project, then I would also not go for a custom CLI. So thanks for your attention. This was my talk. If you have any questions or want to try it out, it's on GitHub and on PubDev, or just shoot. Thanks.